is going to be no pre-garden tour before getting started on today's project because it's supposed to rain later today. So I want to get this done as quickly as possible so that I can head back inside and get other work done. But basically today I'm going to work on setting up the poles for the shade cloth. The half of the garden is uncovered right now, which is fine. It's going to rain. I feel like it's not that big of a deal. The only thing that has me a little bit worried is that it's dipping down again. And I know we're already past our last frost, but I just don't want any of the new foliage to be torn off. And having the shade cloth up just helps to protect the garden a little bit more from all of the elements, including rain, hail, any sort of windstorm. And so I want to set the shade cloth back up as quickly as possible. I already have my poles painted. It took about 3 days to paint them just because I had to do half of a portion at a time. And then I also went back and did a second coat to make sure that I had a good amount of coverage. And so everything's ready to go. The only thing I'm gonna do right now is probably just gonna be to set the poles up. Yeah, I think that's all I'm gonna work on right now, just because it's really, really windy. And so I don't think going up on a ladder is the smartest thing to do right now. So before I start trying to attach the poles, I'm actually gonna take down the string lights that I already have set up around the perimeter of the garden so that I can have access to the wall if I need it. Okay, so let's go. Let's get started. I have all of these string lights attached to the cinder block wall. And many, many years ago, I used like these nails to try and attach them. I figured out different ways that work a lot better. But for now, I need to try and remove them. I have other string lights. Oh, let me see. It's a little bit more tedious removing the string lights just because there's so many containers in the way. But this will just make it way easier for me to set up the poles. And I have more string lights. Oh, shoot. Oh. Okay, I just broke off one of these. Gosh darn it, dude. Are you kidding me right now? Oh, okay. I think it went to this tree, to my apple tree. Okay, so these are off. I have some more string lights coming in the mail. They were supposed to get here. There was a little bit of a mishap that happened with Amazon, but they should be coming in soon. Okay, so let me continue taking off the string lights.
I was in such a hurry, I forgot to go over how I'm going to attach these 10-foot long conduit poles to the cinder block wall. Maybe there's better ways, but I decided to use 1/2 inch galvanized 2-hole pipe straps. A pack of 10 came out to under $4 and I used about 3 to 4 per conduit pole. To drill the holes in the wall, I used a masonry drill bit and Tapcon screws. I didn't use any sort of concrete anchor, mainly because I didn't know they were a thing or that I would need them, because I figured concrete is so solid, it's good to go on its own. However, I later found out that the cinder block wall is very hollow and at times some of the screws kept spinning and felt a little loose to me. Using concrete anchors might have made the process easier. Instead, I re-drilled the hole in a different spot and bought concrete patching compound to fill in my mistakes. A touch of paint helped it blend right in when I eventually got to it. By the way, I despise these concrete walls that surround Serendipity. I've always wanted either a white or brown picket fence or a cattle panel fence. The picket fence would probably be my first choice just because it's the easier of the two, but it's probably also more expensive. I'd wanted to have enough space in between the pickets to allow climbing rose blooms to drape through so that my neighbors can enjoy them too. I'd have to train the climbing roses to grow horizontally, which would probably produce a ton more lateral canes, and in turn that would give me even more blooms. It's a win-win. The cattle panel, on the other hand, feels more exciting to me though, because I would have to do a lot more to make it look more formal, so it would be a lot more of a DIY project. Personally, I'd get a little more creative by using paint and making it look more polished. I would want it to look nice as it fills in with climbing roses. After a few years, the cattle panel and T-post would disappear behind bouquets of blooms. I'd make sure to weave string lights in and out of the cattle panel so that it can light up on the inside of the yard in the nighttime. I just know that it would look absolutely magical. Plus, I think one of the pros about using a cattle panel fence versus a wood fence is that I would have to add little wood, I don't know, like screws, I guess, to be able to attach my climbing roses. And maybe that wouldn't be that difficult. Maybe it would be a lot easier than I have in mind, but I like the fact that I'm used to trellising things on cattle panels, so I can use cotton twine or I can use a bunch of different materials without having to do much to the fence itself. Usually, though not always, newer homes and communities with HOAs are already fenced in with cinder block walls that span the whole block. Some people give the brown cinder block walls a fresh coat of paint to personalize their space, or they attach trellises to add a little more privacy and height. I didn't even consider painting the walls until I noticed one of my neighbors had done theirs to match their beautiful outdoor furniture. Painting the wall now would be impossible because I have so many trees in the garden, and trying to work behind them would not only be tedious, but I am very clumsy and I wouldn't want to get paint everywhere. Instead, I try and make the cinder block disappear by using plants to draw the eye away from it. And while we're on the topic, another reason I'm not too fond of cinder block walls is because they heat up really good. This might be a pro if you live somewhere that gets really cold because the wall retains heat really good. However, because I live in the low desert of Arizona, the cinder block wall makes my already sizzling backyard feel more like the inside of an air fryer. That, combined with the turf that heats up an ungodly amount in the summer and melts crayons if certain gremlins forget them outside, is a nightmare for many gardeners. Then, to top it off, the rest of my yard is covered in pavers. I am by no means exaggerating when I tell you it gets so hot in the summer that it hurts to breathe because the air is blistering hot and full of pollution. And I mentioned the pollution because when I thought about setting up the shade cloth, there was a part of me that felt bad about not being able to see the blue sky anymore. But then I really thought about it and I was like, you know what? I can see the blue sky in the front yard when it's finally cool enough for me to stand outside. But otherwise, it's not going to make a difference in the backyard because I'm not going to be outside during the day. Because I'm not going to be outside during the day, and at night the air is so polluted you can't see any stars, so it's not like I'm missing out on anything. And that made me feel a lot better about setting up the shade cloth over my entire backyard, because in a way I am blocking out the sky, but I'm happy that I can at least get the view of the really pretty mountains. Having Serendipity has definitely transformed my backyard so that I don't notice the cinder block wall as much anymore, and the yard feels a little bit more inhabitable. The front yard, on the other hand, is a stranger to me. The ground is covered in hot pea gravel and there's a few random desert shrubs sprinkled randomly throughout the yard. I don't know the names of the trees that are planted into the landscape, as I usually rush past them trying to get away from the invisible flames that engulf my front yard. There, the sun beats down all day long, so I don't even have to worry about weeds because the sun burns them all for me. I think about all of this as I work on attaching the conduit poles to the cinder block wall. because every day that passes feels like a clock that gets hotter with each tick. I am desperate to get the shade cloth up as soon as possible because that way, when the heat fully sets in, I'll have a peace of mind that I did everything in my power to give Serendipity the best shot of surviving the summer.
I don't know, guys. I might only have enough time to do one. I felt raindrops. So I think I'm just going to do one. And I'll have to work on the rest probably tomorrow. So far, not too shabby. I'm back indoors now because it started raining and I looked at the forecast and it should be raining for the rest of the day. So that kind of sucks. I really just wanted to finish setting up the poles today so that on Sunday I could finish working on the rest of the shade cloth and then I could finish up the other garden projects that I have because there's so many things I just haven't gotten around to finishing, like setting up the drip irrigation on a lot of my containers. I accidentally broke off one of the little barbed connectors while I was out there trying to move behind some other containers as I was drilling some holes in the cinder block. Anywho, there's just so much to do, but I feel so much more uplifted right now because I came inside feeling a little bit gloomy because I just felt like, oh, I'm not gonna get to work again. Thanks to the weather, it never rains here, and the one time I need to do stuff, it starts raining. But anyways, it's fine. I feel a lot better because once I got inside, I saw that Amazon had dropped off a few things I had ordered for this project. So I'm going to show you. In this huge box, we have 3 sets of string lights. This is the brand that I usually buy. It's Bannered. These are not solar string lights. I do have some solar in the garden and I like both, but I really do like being able to connect them and disconnect them because I just feel like I can have them stay on for whatever time I choose. So I got 3 sets of 102 feet. As you can see right there, and they weren't supposed to get here for a few more days, but they're here now, which makes me feel so excited because the whole backyard is going to be lit up so that I can garden at night. And then I also bought some UV resistant polyester thread so that I can patch up some of the holes in the shade cloth. So there we go. I'm so excited. So this means that tomorrow I'm going to focus on finishing up setting up the poles, and then I'll also try and attach the shade cloth. And if I have time, maybe even the string lights, because that shouldn't be too difficult once the poles are set up. And the first one went by really fast. It was a little bit intimidating because I had to use the drill that I borrowed from my brother-in-law, and I didn't really know, like exactly what I was doing, but it was really easy. Very easy. I just made sure to wear earmuffs because it was really loud, but okay, not too bad. In the meantime, the garden can enjoy the rain. Look at that. Oh my gosh. P.S. I'm really proud of the one pole that I was able to set up because look how straight that is. And then that means that the other T-posts I'll be able to take out and reuse for trellises that I was going to set up either way. I was just going to have to buy more T-posts. But this way I can save money, use those T-posts, and then have the poles attached to the wall. So it's a little bit more straight, a little bit more sturdy, and it won't go anywhere. But we'll finish that up another day. I'll just work on that tomorrow. But no, I'm just so excited. I'll just edit the rest of the day in the meantime. Or at least that's what I was planning to do before it stopped raining. So I figured that whenever the rain stopped, I would run outside, set up another pole, come back indoors, and repeat the process over and over and over again until I finished. But I'll show you more about that in the next diary entry.